Hey, this is Pad from Team Me. We're continuing our series on chatbot personalities using the profiling tool provided by Team Me. And we are looking now at DeepSeek. Hasn't DeepSeek caused some waves in recent days? We are going to look at the personality represented by DeepSeek and bring out a few interesting points to note around this particular bot as opposed to some of the others that we've tested over time. Now, we're using for our essential personality profiling model the Team Me approach, which is an archetypal approach to human personalities. And of course, since these bots are trained to speak to human beings, we're interested to see how much of these characters and characteristics they represent as they communicate with us. So we took these different bots through the same questioning exercise that we give to human beings. For us humans, it takes a grand total of 90 seconds to register and complete the questionnaires to be able to get some very accurate data regarding the characters that they represent. And if you know the model, you'll know just how much remarkable insight these simple 6 characters can provide once you've put a measurement to them. And so we normally come out with a report of this sort, which gives what we call the power profile, your 2 strongest character types, and then gives you a full spectrum profile, all 6 characters measured from 0 to 10 with points in between, and then the left and right brain balance as well, which is a really important way of understanding the way that we process information and what it is we value and look at. So if you look at Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity, we've also done Meta AI, we've also done Grok now. What you'll see from this graph here is that there is a general pattern to the way that all these bots show up. And it's no different for DeepSeek. It's following the same sort of pattern where we have a dominance of sage and lover archetypes. But where the others fall is really, really very important as well. So look, the dominance we have here with DeepSeek is that we have sage and lover exactly equal. So we have 8 for both of these characters, which is a very strong, mature character, but they are equal in their weight. So it is considering both the logic and the relationship, so to speak, the empathy and compassion with the hard facts and the hard numbers and the evidence. And so that sort of balance is there in equal measure with this particular bot. Now, this is really interesting as well, because when we look at the brain balance, it's very even and equal. There's only one bot, I think it was Perplexity, that had an absolute clear split down the middle. We saw Meta AI recently having a profoundly dominant right brain, and the others tend to settle with something similar to this or a little bit more right brain. But it's interesting to see the balance here between the two, the balance between the creative and the rational or the logical side of the brain. And the characters, the archetypal characters that sit in each of those camps, makes it very, very easy for us to measure this. Moving on to the profile itself. Now, this is really where the meat of the conversation lies. And I'm just going to bring out a few key points here. Look at the average, which is the orangey yellow line there, and look at the blue bars, which represent DeepSeek's response. So none of these characters are under 2, so they're all fairly mature, but none of them are over 8 either. So it doesn't have a greatly inflated opinion of its abilities, but it does clearly show the 2 dominant ones, sage and lover, one left brain type, one right brain type, that are equal in their balance, and either one of them may take the lead in a response that it provides. It's weighing those 2 things equally. Look then at the sort of second division, sovereign and mystic. Really interesting that both of those 2 characters, although several steps down to the dominant ones, are equal in their strength. So it's interesting to see that once it's satisfied the need to giving logical and rational answers delivered in a relationally positive way, with enough compassion and care in its delivery, it then has a question about whether it then has to deliver things that are enforcing boundaries, maintaining order and control, which is the sovereign's job, or whether it can then move into something more imaginative, innovative, and creative. So that's really interesting, because the mystic loves to transcend things, including boundaries. It transcends to transform. So it's looking to innovate. It's looking to press forward into a better and brighter dream of the future. The sovereign likes a future vision as well, loves the big picture, but is much more pragmatic in its approach. And so both of these are essentially jostling then for that sort of second division space within the personality of DeepSeek. Then comes in the jester, which is essentially saying, let's make this journey enjoyable. Let's have some fun. Let's bring in a little bit of variety and spice that you might not have expected. So that's quite a strong character for a bot at 3.6 there. And then in comes the warrior. No surprise, the warrior is last, because as we've said, a disembodied chatbot sees itself in a very different way to an embodied being. We know what it is to be hungry, tired. We know what dopamine feels like when it hits the body. We know what stress and anxiety does to the body in terms of cortisol and adrenaline. Bots know none of those things. They don't know what it's like to get hungry and tired. They don't know what it's like to feel a resistance physically and have to overcome that. The warrior is all about overcoming pain, pushing through in order to enforce boundaries and to claim a prize. And so the warrior is about competition and confrontation as well, things that bots again know very, very little about. So we expect it to be lower, but look, DeepSeek is higher than the average. So that's an interesting point overall, that it sees the warrior's task as being a more important one than many of the other bots do. So that's an interesting balance there overall. Now, what I think is most important here, and I can't bring this up immediately, is it's the difference between ChatGPT 4 and DeepSeek, because it is claimed that DeepSeek just used ChatGPT 4 data to build its knowledge base and to establish, to gather all the information that it could, and then condense that down into a much more efficient model. Now that's interesting, because what we're seeing here is a very different personality profile. There's some significant differences between DeepSeek and ChatGPT. So even if the knowledge that it has attained is the same, the way that it goes about processing that information, because of its personality, and yes, I'm putting major inverted commas around that phrase, is very, very different. So I hope you found that interesting and enlightening. It may have opened more questions than answers. If you have questions or comments, please bang them in below. It would be wonderful to hear from you. If you're involved in R&D, developing out these LLMs and particularly focused on the personality aspect of these developments, then you might be interested to understand the Team Me approach and how it supersedes any of the other personality models out there. Immediately gets down to the most important issues that affect the language choices that the bots make, and therefore can establish emotionally resonant language, build rapport with the user, get on their wavelength, and communicate far more effectively in their daily interactions. It takes 90 seconds for the user to complete their profile. After that point, the bots can very, very quickly understand how to communicate most effectively. If you're in that field, I'd love to talk to you. teamme.com/dialect gives you a bit of information about our approach and the benefits of it, and gives you an opportunity to schedule an appointment to talk to us as well. I'd love to hear from you. This is Pad from Team Me signing off.